You make more money than you did 5 years ago, maybe twice as much, and somehow you still open your banking app and feel that same tight little knot in your stomach. If your paycheck grew but your peace of mind didn't, this video is going to explain exactly why, and it has almost nothing to do with how much you earn. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you when you finally hit that six-figure number or cross into a salary your younger self would have called rich. The feeling of being broke doesn't come from your bank balance. It comes from something happening upstream of the balance, something quiet and automatic that most people never notice is even running in the background. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, in your own spending and in almost everyone you know. So let's actually get into the first thing driving this, and it's the one most people blame last instead of first. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it moves so smoothly that you barely register it happening. You get a raise, and within about 6 weeks, your rent creeps up because now you can afford the apartment with the in-unit laundry and the extra bedroom. Your car payment goes from $310 a month to $540 because the old car isn't really you anymore. The coffee that used to be a Tuesday treat becomes a daily stop, and the takeout that used to be a Friday reward becomes a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday thing, and you don't even clock it as a decision. It just happens the way water finds the low ground. Your spending doesn't jump all at once, it seeps into every gap your raise created, until the extra $1,500 a month you're now bringing home has already been spoken for before it even lands. You didn't buy a yacht. You bought a slightly better version of every single thing you already had, one upgrade at a time, and the sum of all those upgrades ate the raise whole. Here's the part that stings a little. This isn't a willpower problem. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Humans adapt to their circumstances shockingly fast, good or bad. Win the lottery, and within a year, your baseline happiness tends to drift back to roughly where it was before. Get a raise, and within a few months, the new salary doesn't feel special anymore. It just feels like your salary. The same way a house you've lived in for a year stops feeling new even if it's twice the size of your last place. That's not a character flaw. That's just how the human nervous system works. But if you don't actively manage it, that adaptation quietly resets your enough line every single time your income goes up, and it never ever resets downward on its own. But here's where it gets more interesting, because lifestyle inflation is really just the visible symptom. The deeper issue, the one that's actually driving the car, is that most people have never defined what enough even looks like for them. Ask yourself right now, honestly, what number in your bank account, in your monthly cash flow, would actually make you feel secure? Not rich, just safe. If you can't answer that in about 5 seconds, that's not a small gap. That's the entire problem in one sentence. Because when you don't have a defined target, your brain defaults to comparing you against the people around you instead of comparing you against your own plan. And comparison is a bottomless well. There is always a bigger house 2 streets over. There is always a coworker posting a vacation photo from somewhere warmer than wherever you are. There is always a friend with a nicer kitchen, a newer SUV, a kid in a fancier school. Chasing a moving target that other people control is a guaranteed way to feel behind forever, no matter what your paycheck says, because the target moves exactly as fast as you do. And this is the part most people miss entirely. It's not just that you're comparing yourself to your neighbor's car in the driveway. It's that you're comparing yourself to a highlight reel, a filtered, staged, best possible angle version of somebody else's financial life, while you're standing inside the full, messy, unfiltered truth of your own. You see their vacation, not their credit card statement. You see their new kitchen, not their 30-year mortgage or the fact that they refinanced twice just to make the numbers work. So you're not actually competing on real information. You're competing against a rumor, and rumors always win, because rumors don't have a ceiling. Now let's talk about the second major piece of this, because it's just as sneaky as lifestyle creep, and it's what I'd call invisible bleed. This is all the spending that doesn't feel like spending because no single transaction is big enough to notice. Subscriptions are the obvious example. Streaming services, a meal kit you haven't cooked in a month, a gym membership you visit 4 times a year, an app you forgot you signed up for during a free trial 18 months ago. Individually, every single one of these looks harmless. $9 here, $14 there, $6 for a service you can't even name off the top of your head. But stack them up, And a lot of people are quietly bleeding out $200 to $400 a month on things they would cancel in a heartbeat if they had to resubscribe from scratch today and actually think about it. That's $2,400 to $4,800 a year, gone. Not to anything that made your life better, but to friction, to forgetting, to the fact that canceling something is annoying and remembering to do it requires energy you don't have left at the end of a long week. And it's not just subscriptions. It's the small convenience taxes you pay all day without registering them as choices. The $7 delivery fee on food you could have picked up. The $4 ATM fee because you were near the wrong bank. The $60 impulse buy at checkout that felt like nothing in the moment because it was smaller than your rent, smaller than your car payment, smaller than anything your brain has been trained to flag as a real financial decision. Your mind is wired to treat big numbers as dangerous and small numbers as free. But the small numbers don't stay small. They multiply across 365 days a year, and by December, they've quietly outspent some people's entire vacation budget without a single purchase ever feeling like the one that mattered. Think about what a normal Tuesday actually looks like for someone earning good money. Coffee on the way to work, $6. Lunch delivered because there wasn't time to pack anything, $18 with tip and fees included. A quick stop for something at the drugstore that turned into $22 of stuff that wasn't on any list. None of these purchases would ever show up if you asked that person to name their biggest expenses. They'd say rent, they'd say the car payment, they'd say maybe their student loan. But add up 100 quiet Tuesdays like that one, and you're looking at thousands of dollars a year that never got a decision, never got weighed against anything else, never got compared to what else that money could have done. It just left, one small forgettable transaction at a time. The financial equivalent of a slow leak in a tire you never notice until you're stranded on the side of the road, wondering how you got there. This is also why net worth can feel like such a strange, disconnected number to a lot of people. You can watch your investment accounts grow on paper while your checking account still feels tight every single month. And the disconnect between those two realities is exactly what produces that specific, confusing kind of stress. You're not poor. Your net worth might genuinely be climbing. But your day-to-day cash flow feels like a treadmill you can't step off of, and that treadmill feeling is what your nervous system actually responds to, not the number sitting in a retirement account you can't touch until you're 59 and a half. Your brain doesn't do long division on your future. It reacts to what's happening in your checking account this week, and if that account feels perpetually thin no matter what you earn, your body treats that as danger regardless of what your net worth statement says. Here's the first thing that starts fixing this, and it's less about cutting and more about seeing. You cannot manage what you cannot see. And most people who feel broke on a good salary have never actually looked their spending in the eye for a full month. Not glanced at it, looked at it, category by category, dollar by dollar. When you finally pull every transaction from the last 30 days and sort it, most people find at least one category that's 2 or 3 times bigger than they expected. Not because they're reckless, but because nobody had ever forced the invisible into the light before. This single exercise, done honestly, does more for your financial anxiety than almost anything else on this list, because so much of that broke feeling isn't actually about lacking money. It's about not knowing where your money went, which is a completely different and much scarier problem. Not knowing feels like standing in a dark room where you can hear something moving but can't see what it is. The moment you turn the lights on, even if the room is messier than you hoped, the fear drops immediately, because now you're looking at a problem instead of a shadow. The second thing, and this is where a lot of people get real traction fast, is building what's sometimes called a values-based budget instead of a restriction-based one. Most budgets fail because they're built like a diet. All deprivation, no direction, just a list of things you're not allowed to enjoy anymore. That kind of budget lasts about 3 weeks before you rebel against it, the same way anyone rebels against a plan that feels like punishment. A values-based budget flips the question. Instead of asking, what do I need to cut? You ask, what actually matters to me? And am I spending in a way that reflects that? If travel genuinely lights you up, then a travel line in your budget isn't a luxury. It's a priority, and you fund it on purpose instead of feeling guilty about it after the fact. But that also means the categories that don't actually matter to you, the subscriptions you forgot about, The impulse buys that gave you 10 seconds of dopamine and zero lasting satisfaction. Those get trimmed guilt-free because you're not cutting your joy. You're cutting the stuff that was never bringing you joy in the first place. This is the difference between a budget that feels like a cage and a budget that feels like a compass. Third, and this is the one that quietly rewires the raise problem from the start, is what's often called a percentage lock, or paying yourself first before lifestyle has a chance to claim the new money. Here's how it works in practice. The moment your income goes up, whether that's a raise, a bonus, a new job, a side hustle finally paying off, you immediately route a fixed percentage of that increase, somewhere between 50 and 80%, straight into savings or investments before it ever touches your checking account. Automate it the same day you get the news. If you got a $500 a month raise and you lock 60% of it away automatically, you still get to enjoy $200 a month of upgraded lifestyle, a nicer dinner out, a little more breathing room, but the other $300 is already working for you in a 401k, a Roth IRA, an index fund, a high-yield savings account, before your brain even has time to normalize it as spendable. This matters because of that adaptation effect we talked about earlier. If the money never sits in your checking account long enough to feel spendable, your baseline never adjusts to include it, and lifestyle inflation loses its fuel supply at the source instead of you fighting it transaction by transaction for the rest of your life. Fourth, and this is the step most people skip because it feels almost too simple to matter, is defining your actual number. Not a vague feeling of more would be nice, but an actual figure. What does your version of enough look like, written down, with real digits attached to it? Maybe it's a specific amount in an emergency fund, say 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting untouched, so a surprise car repair or a medical bill doesn't send you spiraling. Maybe it's a specific monthly number that covers your needs, funds your actual values, and still lets something flow into long-term investing every single month without fail. Whatever it is, write it down, put a number on it, and let that number become your comparison point instead of your neighbor's driveway or your coworker's vacation photos. Once you have a real target, enough stops being an emotional, shifting, anxiety-driven guess and becomes something you can actually measure yourself against, which changes the entire emotional experience of checking your bank account. And now, here's the part that ties this whole thing together, the answer to that question we opened with. Why does a good salary still feel broke? It's not because you're bad with money, and it's not because you secretly need to earn even more before you'll finally feel safe. It's because feeling broke was never really about the number on your paycheck. It's about the gap between what's coming in and what's quietly, invisibly, automatically flowing back out through lifestyle creep, undefined targets, comparison to strangers' highlight reels, and 100 tiny subscriptions and convenience fees you forgot you agreed to. Close that gap, and it doesn't matter whether your salary is $55,000 or $250,000. The tight knot in your stomach starts to loosen, because for the first time, your money has a job, a direction, and a destination, instead of just evaporating into a life you never consciously chose. That's the real reason so many people earning good money still feel like they're one bad month away from panic. It was never a lack of income. It was a lack of a plan sitting right behind that income, catching it before it slipped through all those invisible cracks. Fix the plan, and the salary you already have starts feeling like enough, maybe for the first time in years. If this hit home, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe for more videos like this one.